officially call to order the meeting of the Alternative Energy Committee for the town of Cohasset. In accordance with Massachusetts law, we are meeting virtually, and when we do any type of vote, we need to do a roll call vote. So welcome everybody. We have a lot of things to accomplish today. First thing is approving some meeting minutes, including the ones from the educational series that Debbie and Julia put together. So thank you so much for getting those in. What I'd like to do is, why don't we, once Lindsay comes on, we'll do just introductions around the board. But since we've started the meeting, why don't we move forward with the meeting minutes? The first one I'd like us to approve are the meeting minutes from last month's meeting on January 9th. So I'll just give everybody a moment and then I'd entertain a motion to approve unless there are some items that people would like to discuss. All right, is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you, Martha. Is there a second? Oh, sorry. Who did the motion?
I did.
Okay,
Martha moved, I seconded.
Debbie seconded. Perfect. Is there any discussion? All right, let's do a roll call vote. Tanya Bodell, aye.
Steve Winter, aye.
Debbie Cook, aye.
Tom Daly, abstain.
Martha Gangemi, aye.
Chris Dodleyson, aye.
All right, excellent. The minutes from January pass with 5 approvals and 1 abstention. Excellent. All right, so now let's go to the educational series. And Julie, if you can tell me what's the first one that we should do?
Hold on one moment. Let me just pull it up.
And I will say, I think what I'd like to do in all of these meeting minutes is include a link to the video so that people can refer back to the actual video, which I believe has been posted. And to the extent there were slides and we received a copy of the slides, I'd like to get a copy of the slides and the attachments as well.
I might mention that Hingham Net Zero, Hingham Net Zero has a similar program, and I guess their next session was going to be on electrical lawn equipment and so forth. So I forwarded them a link from the AEC website for our webinar on electrical lawn equipment, etc.
Excellent.
Getting a little more mileage out of it.
That's excellent.
So the first set would be May 9th, 2024 residential solar.
All right. Did everybody have a chance to review that? We'll give a moment. Hi, Barbara. We've already approved the January meeting minutes. We're now on to the May meeting minutes for the educational series on residential solar.
Okay, thanks.
And I'd entertain a motion to approve, unless, well, we'll make a motion to approve and then we can have discussion. All right, I'll make a motion to approve. How about that?
Okay, I'll second the motion.
Thank you, Steve. Maybe we'll be very expedient about this and do it the same way all the way through. Excellent. Is there any discussion? So what I'd like to do is a motion to approve subject to inclusion of any slides that were presented to the extent we have it and a link to the video.
Who has the slides? Are they posted on the website?
In some cases, those were sent to us, and in other cases, we might just have to do screenshots of the
I
video.
think I only saw the video recording when I looked for the one on lawnmowers, et cetera.
That's right, and that's why I'd like to include any slides in the back.
I guess I'm just asking who has those slides?
So
have
when I
them?
did those, basically, am I making an echo? I can't.
A little bit.
Yeah, sorry, it's terrible reception here. Basically, what we got was, basically they showed them, so the video would be the slideshow.
Okay,
I mean, basically that would be redundant, really,
yeah,
because they showed us on the video.
Okay.
Yeah.
all right, great, thank you.
So did we not receive slides? I don't know, not everybody had
No.
slides, but some people did.
No, they just did screen share and we showed them on the video.
Okay, so are you proposing, Debbie, that we don't include the slides as an attachment, but just a link to the video?
Yes, that's what I am proposing.
Okay. So then I'll make them, how do people feel about that?
I think it's great.
The only advantage of having the actual presentation would be we could cut and paste it to our, if we wanted to make a presentation, we could cut and paste and edit. But otherwise, there's probably not any real point in having the presentation as a separate document.
Well, it'd be an attachment to the meeting minutes, and I think it would just simplify things for people because it'd be in one place, but I also understand that it's work and it's already available.
Well, in a
No,
lot
the
of
video's
cases, they
the
didn't
video's
send them in
available, but
advance.
Deb, I think you're saying, Debbie, that the actual presentation document, the PowerPoint thing is not available.
It's available through the video.
Right, they didn't send them in advance. They basically, we talked about it. They showed, I mean, the first time I saw them was actually at the meeting, so they didn't send them to me in advance. I had asked for it a couple of times, but you know what? Never happened.
So I'll just include the link to the videos.
Perfect.
All right. So do I have a motion to approve the May 2024 Residential Solar Educational Series session?
That was,
Subject to inclusion of the link to the video.
I think
Yeah.
we already approved the May 9th one. We did. We already
No.
approved that one.
We did not approve. We didn't
We
take a
made
vote.
the motion
we
and I
made the
seconded it,
motion.
but we did not yet vote on it.
Okay, great.
So we're amending the motion.
No,
Again, Jimmy,
No.
aye.
Well, we have to second it.
Steve has seconded.
Okay. All right, let's do a roll call vote.
You got me.
Steve,
Debbie,
Chris Albertson.
Tanya Bodell, aye. All right, it's approved. What's the next one, Julia?
June 13th, 2024 heat pumps.
Okay. So there's a session, June 2024 on heat pumps. And I'll make a motion that we approve these subject to inclusion of the link to the actual video.
I'll second again.
All right, is there any discussion? All right, let's take a roll call vote. Tanya Bodell, aye.
Steve Winter,
Martha
aye.
again, Jimmy, aye.
Barbara Russell.
I think that was Chrissy Odlifson, aye.
Oh, yeah, I came in a little bit ago.
All right, and let's pass these unanimously. What's the next one, Julia?
July 11th, 2024 electric lawn care equipment.
Okay, July 11th, 2024 electric lawn care and equipment. And again, I would make a motion to approve these subject to inclusion of the link to the video under the discussion category. Steve, do you want a second?
I'm gonna abstain because I guess I wasn't there.
Well, if you read the minutes, I know we weren't always there, but I think in some cases.
I'll second it for you.
All right, thanks, Tom. All right, there's a motion, a second, any discussion? All right, let's do roll call vote. Tanya Bodell, aye.
Martha Gangemi, aye.
Debbie Cook, aye.
Steve Winter abstain.
Daily abstain.
Okay, so we
Chris
have
Alderson, aye.
5 ayes and 2 abstentions. Excellent. What's the last one?
August 8th, 2024, efficient hot water heating options.
Okay, very good. Again, I will make a motion to approve subject to inclusion of the link to the video itself in the category under discussion.
I'll second.
Thank you, Martha. Is there any discussion? All right.
Looks like
roll call
Debbie
vote.
was the only AEC member there.
I don't know if that's true because at that point, some of us were just sitting in the audience and hadn't been promoted.
Oh, okay.
So Tanya Bodell, aye.
Steve Winter, aye.
Debbie Cook, aye.
Chris Alderson, aye.
Martha
Russell,
Gangemi,
Tom
aye.
Daly, aye.
Debbie, aye.
Yep.
They are approved unanimously. And that's it. We're clear on all of our 2024 meeting minutes for education. Do we have any outstanding on committees?
I think there's still that subcommittee.
On the EVs?
Yes.
I didn't get
All right.
that.
So let's get that done and then we can do
Yeah.
that at the next meeting.
Okay.
Okay, good. Awesome. Lindsay, sorry to keep you waiting. The next item is to have Lindsay Dean Mayer present to us on a battery storage opportunity for the town of Cohasset to be located on private land as a private project. And as we do that, why don't we go around quickly and introduce ourselves so Lindsay knows who she's speaking with. This is the esteemed Alternative Energy Committee, and my name is Tanya Bodell. I'm the chair. Welcome, Lindsay. It's great to have you.
Well, I guess I'll go. I'm Steve Winter. I'm a long-term member of the committee. Welcome. Thanks for coming.
Hi, Lindsay. You know me. I'm Martha Gangemi, member of the AAC committee.
Tom Daly, member of the committee.
Hey, Lindsay, Barbara Russell, member of the committee. Nice to meet you.
And Debbie Cook,
Yeah,
vice chair. Hi, Lindsay. How are you?
And there's one more, Chris Alderson, at 6604, a member of the committee. Thanks for being here, Lindsay.
Excellent. All right, so let's everybody put ourselves on mute, and Lindsay, take it away.
Great. So thank
Sorry,
you, Tanya. for-
Julia Gillis is our liaison to the town. I
Great.
don't know.
Well,
she's-
thanks, Tanya, for having us today or having me today. I am a Cohasset resident and grew up in Cohasset and now have returned to raise my family. So it's great to be here talking about alternative energy. And just a quick note from listening to the minutes, I will make sure that I will send the slide deck after the fact so that you can have it both in PDF and in the recording of this meeting. And now I will do my best to share the screen. Great. So I am here to talk about a battery storage project. So I am a renewable energy developer. I've been doing that for about 15 years now. And I'm excited to be here today to talk about a project both where I live, but also someplace that I think this could really have a big impact and help. And you may be wondering what a battery has to do with alternative energy. So I'm hoping by the end of this presentation tonight, you'll understand why we are starting the discussion with the AEC, and we hope that the AEC will both ask good questions, help make the proposal better, and hopefully support it in the long run. So about Palmer. Palmer is where I work. Palmer has been around for 4 decades developing alternative energy projects, and our main office is in Cohasset above the Hingham Institutions for Savings in downtown. We've financed over $2.6 billion worth of alternative energy projects, and we're currently developing a pipeline of exclusively carbon neutral projects, so wind, solar, and battery storage throughout the United States, with a focus on the Northeast, New York, ISO, and PJM. Palmer has historically been an early adopter of new technologies. In fact, we developed the first landfill gas to electric project that was commercial in the country. And we were one of the first to implement net metering under the Green Communities Act when that was first put into place. So just to level the playing field about what we're talking about, the battery storage project is basically what it sounds like. It is a standalone storage system. It would charge from the electric grid and it would discharge into that same location. It's not being proposed with renewable energy. It is going to be standalone. That being said, it is being chosen for this specific location because the Mass DOER has identified this pink circuit that runs through the majority of Cohasset as being close to its peak rating. So they've gone through the entire Commonwealth and looked at which lines have a normal rating that is very close to the peak rating. And that means that that line is basically running at its full capacity. And they have put out a program where they're looking to deploy batteries in these locations such that they can consume power when the load is low and maybe renewable energy production is high. And then they can put power back into the grid when local consumption is high. This is what's sometimes referred to as like a non-wires alternative, if you're not familiar with that term. Basically, instead of upgrading this entire circuit, which while it would be a socialized cost, it would be pretty inconvenient for everyone to be upgrading this. And it would have to be a long way out in terms of system planning. But the battery can offset the need for an immediate upgrade. And so what does a battery have to do with renewable energy? So the program put out by the Commonwealth it actually prescribes when you can charge the battery and when you can discharge the battery. So the idea is that you charge the battery during peak renewable penetration, either wind or solar, and then later you discharge the battery as solar production starts declining later in the day. The reason why this is needed is what's commonly called the duck curve. The duck curve was first coined in California, and it's the concept that historically we would expect peak production, peak load to happen in the middle of the day. And you would have a nice kind of sinusoidal curve going up. Now, because of all of the solar that's being put on the grid, as you can see on the left side of the screen, peak load actually happens later in the day. So normally you would expect peak load around noon, but that's when solar is at its prime. And so it's pushing the need for more generation to later in the day. So a battery can help shift, right, generation earlier in the day, putting it out later when sun starts to set. This is important in New England because the first duck curve actually only happened recently in 2018. But since then, we're seeing that it's happening with increasing frequency. So there were 45 duck curve days in 2022, 73 in 2023, and over 100 in 2024. And it's all times of year. The last one I saw in 2024 was either like October or November. So we're not just talking about like the peak of the summer. We're talking all year round. We're seeing a shift in when we have peak load for the day.
Lindsay, is this for like Massachusetts overall, or is this a particular region when you start thinking about duck curves?
Yeah, the duck curve represents, this is a New England issue. So it's ISO New England is what we're looking at here. But the the battery program is put out by the Commonwealth. So they've identified within Massachusetts itself where they want to see these upgrades go.
If you're looking at Newling and overall's duck curve, I would imagine when you look at region, there'll be some ducks, some little ducks and some big ducks. And is that sort of have a bearing when you're developing local batteries?
Yeah, so different parts of New England have other constraints. So we do a good amount of work in Maine, which is where I've been working developing wind projects. But one of the issues is that when you develop more energy generation in Maine without a transmission solution, you can't actually get it to Massachusetts. So there's been a lot of coordinated effort among the New England states to figure out how we get electricity from where we can generate it to where we need it. But I would say that the duck curve happens mostly when you have behind the meter solar. So you would need both people installing it and sufficient density. So, I would expect it more in Massachusetts than maybe in, rural Maine.
Great. Thanks, Lindsay.
So to familiarize ourselves with this, up in the corner here, that's what a battery container looks like. It looks similar to a shipping container. The one being proposed would be a standalone unit. It doesn't require any additional enclosure. It doesn't have a separate roof. It actually just comes as a container and it can get placed on its foundation. There would be a fence that we would propose just to deter unauthorized access. It's made out of a lithium ion battery, similar to what you see in your phone or in your EV vehicle. And it doesn't make a lot of noise because there's no new moving parts. It would take the power from the grid, convert it from AC to DC, store it, and then later transform it back into AC power as it puts it onto the grid. So it's going to sound similar to like an HVAC unit where the only noise is going to be coming from fans. And then on the right side over here, this is kind of like a bird's eye view or plan view of what it looks like. So this would be an image of two containers side by side, one here, one below it. It has doors that are built in that swing open for maintenance. And then they come into a central transformer right here. Each battery itself is about 29, so about 30 feet. It's about 6 feet wide and 9 feet tall. Since they're all individual units, it's pretty modular, so you can actually add units later on. The photo right here on the right is one I found of a similar sized project in New Jersey, just to give you an idea of the scale. We would be talking about the same amount of containers. So the 6 containers in the proposal we would put them actually just side by side to start. So how long does a battery live? Similar to any other battery you've ever used, it's going to degrade over time. So what we're proposing is to build out a site that would generate 20 megawatt hours. So that's 5 megawatts of power for our battery during the initial years of operation. Since the design's modular, like I spoke about on the prior slide, you could, in theory, add more containers later if you wanted to, as it started to degrade. And then when the parts are either damaged or they're retired, they've kind of gone past their life where you're cycling enough electricity in and out, then you can actually send them back to the manufacturer and they will either reuse them or recycle the pieces. The biggest concern people often have with batteries is fire, so I wanted to address that from the front. These batteries that are being proposed are freestanding systems. This is different than what maybe would be proposed like a decade ago. All of these units have 24/7 monitoring within them to monitor for any heat issues. And because they're containerized, they're actually designed to limit the spread of any fire between the individual cells within the container. And they meet various national standards for fire protection safety. In terms of maintenance and like seeing people coming and going from the site, it's very infrequent. There is annual maintenance that comes and you purchase it from the manufacturer. And then major maintenance happens every 10 years. The batteries will be purchased with that maintenance contract. And then other than that, you're looking at kind of landscaping, making sure that you're keeping vegetation away to maintain a buffer around it. So where are we proposing this project? When we first became aware that this circuit was one identified by the state as needing an upgrade similar to this, we looked at it, and obviously being familiar with Cohasset, it became clear that proposing this in the commercial district, so that's the new purple in the 2024 town meeting, would be appropriate. The majority of the rest of this circuit is through residential areas. And we thought when you're looking at planning this community acceptance, going to propose one in a residential zoning district would be more difficult and really not with the kind of theme of that area. So this is what we're proposing. This is a draft site plan. You guys are probably the first to see it. But the idea would be to put it around where the Stop and Shop is, by those retail shops. There is space up here. It's outside of the wetland buffer. And there's actually already power lines running back through here. So just to orient everyone, this is where Feng Shui was. Stoke just came in. And then this is the new building here with the Golf Tavern. This would all be on private property. And then in the just in this image, we've included a storage unit because if we were going to go forward with permitting, we thought we would propose a storage unit, which would just be another container for any kind of parts you might want to keep on area or like wrenches or tools. It's not required for a site this small, but again, it's always easier to propose something and then not use it. Other than that, it would be a fenced-in area and probably some strategic vegetation. And what are the benefits? The biggest benefit for the town is really that it's just an investment in the town that doesn't require use of common infrastructure. It's not going to require sewer. It doesn't require schools or seats in the classroom. But then I think what might interest the AEC is that it really is a demonstration that Cohasset is out there leading, taking on projects to help improve the sustainability, to increase renewable generation in the state. And then particularly with this location, when we've actually spoken to National Grid about it, for this project to come online, we'll have to fund a pretty major upgrade to the Norwell substation. Without that upgrade, National Grid has said that no additional distributed solar, so think about residential solar on your house, can be interconnected until 2028, 2029 at the earliest. So that's when they're currently planning to upgrade that substation. If you've ever worked with the utilities before, you know that things often end up getting pushed out farther and becoming more expensive. So the project would actually pay for that upgrade, which would allow more renewables to come online locally. And then in addition to that, this provides grid stability. So the battery will engage in what are known as the ancillary markets, such as voltage and frequency regulation. And so it helps absorb when there's spikes in the grid that maybe help make your lights flicker. The battery can help with that as well.
Lindsay, did you say that the Norwell upgrade would occur sooner under this project, or?
Yes, yes. So the project would have to pay for that cost. So instead of waiting until 2028 or 2029, when it's currently proposed to happen and having it be a socialized cost at that time, the project would pay for it. And if any other like private generation came online afterwards, not residential solar, not small things, but larger projects, then there is a chance that they may pay it back, but we're planning that the project would absorb that entire cost.
Just out of curiosity, why does the substation in Norwell need to be upgraded if you put batteries on the circuit in Cohasset?
So they're concerned about power being pushed out of the substation. So it's the difference between going from a distribution into transmission. And so to do that, to have more generation, which, you know, they in theory say that the battery could be generating more. Our reasoning is the battery wouldn't be generating more because the whole point of the battery is to be load shifting. But at this point, that's not how they look at these things. They look at it as just additional generation behind the transformer.
Okay, thank you.
And that's all I have for this evening, but I wanted to start with this conversation tonight, answer any questions you have, gather any feedback you guys have, and then talk about maybe next steps both in terms of working with the AEC as well as our schedule. Our hope would be that the project would be moving forward in the next year. We still need to talk to the town about how permitting would work. We've reached out to the fire chief, and we've also obviously been in touch with National Grid about interconnecting. So happy to answer any questions you guys have, and thanks for having me.
Thank you, Lindsay. Steve, why don't you go?
Yeah, Lindsay, I'm just curious, is there a possibility that if this project goes forward and the batteries are installed, that at a future date, they could be incorporated into a local microgrid? You
That
know,
is
so
something
that
that-
if there was a power failure, that circuit in Cohasset could be isolated from the grid and powered for a short time by these batteries?
I don't see why long-term that couldn't be something that was investigated and discussed. That's not exactly what we're proposing today, right? We're just proposing the one thing, but if the town came back and there was an opportunity for that, I mean, I think as Cohasset residents, there's 3 of us at the company who all live in Cohasset that we are motivated to help the town. And then I know even from experience today, right, with the power outage today, you know, hearing from the school that they don't have electricity, and you can't call the school is always a little concerning. So it would be good from my point of view if there was a way to, you know, get the schools online.
I also noticed that the circuit passes right by the solar landfill's solar array. So it could be, you know, used to charge, partially anyways, the battery in, you know, in a situation where it was part of a microgrid and was isolated from the rest of the system. It could be, you know, part, you know, that both the solar array and this battery might be able to work together well to form part of a microgrid.
Or
That's a
even
great idea.
better, if we get solar on the school roofs, it's right there.
Even better. Just maybe one more question, then I'll shut up. About the fire hazard. You know, a few weeks ago, there was that terrible battery fire on the coast in California there, a huge commercial array of batteries went up, and that gave the whole battery industry a real kind of a black eye, I'm afraid. You have any comments about that?
I do. I was expecting that to come up as a question, which is why, you know, I wanted to put it in the presentation that we know fire is a big concern. I think that's probably the biggest concern that people have with batteries, right? Because there aren't moving parts. It's not really making a lot of noise. It's not that visually impactful. So the Moss Landing fire, which you're referring to, was an older battery design. So that was actually kind of like a warehouse. It was an existing area, right, that they just filled with batteries. Those batteries also were a different composition. Those were nickel, manganese, cobalt batteries. And the reason those were selected at the time was because they really pack a lot of energy in them. Well, what does that mean? It means that they can run really hot. What does running really hot mean? It means that you can start a fire. So the industry has actually moved away from that design of putting stacks and stacks of batteries in an open area, because what you saw happen can happen. One of them catches on fire, then the whole area goes up. These batteries are actually designed such that within the like cells of them, within the single like storage unit, the any kind of like fire or damage would not spread beyond like a couple cells up or down. And then in addition, that like it's got its own ventilation. It doesn't need sprinkler systems because it's all enclosed. I actually have a little, sorry, I didn't put it in the presentation, but I'd be happy to send it to Tanya later. I have like a little cheat sheet in front of me, just that shows that like if you had the dark one's the one that would be too hot, and it spreads to up to 3 north and 3 south, but it doesn't go over or farther than that. So I think this is a stack of, let's see, probably 6, 7, maybe like 13 cells, and it only goes to those some. So it's actually pretty great because it has this, both it has the 24/7 heat monitoring within it so that it can sense if something were to go wrong, but then it's actually been designed to limit the propagation within it. So it is different, but it's something I know that's going to be a concern. People are concerned about thermal runway. And it's why we've also already reached out to the fire chief to kind of make sure that this is on their radar. I hope that answers the question.
Very much so.
Yeah.
Thank you.
I want to add something, then Martha, let you go next, just because we're talking about the fires. So the reason why the schools were out and had an outage was because there was a power outage due to a transformer fire at King Street. So the transformer caught on fire. These transformers catch on fire because they're being overheated, because there's too much load going through. There are a lot of other reasons they catch on fire, but the transformer at King Street, which is on the circuit that this battery would be able to help stabilize, had a transformer fire 4 hours ago. 2 years ago, it knocked out power so that the lights at Beechwood and 3A were out. And 4 years ago, that transformer had an explosion that caused a widespread power outage in Cohasset for half of the town. So, if we're afraid of fires, there are fires already happening on the transformers, and they're happening on those transformers because it's an old system and it doesn't have controls on the amount of power that's surging through that old system. And the battery would help to mitigate that, which is probably why Cohasset is on the list for investment of a battery under the, as it was identified by the DOER.
So Tanya, you're saying that when the previous fires happened with that same transformer, they just replaced that one transformer without adding any new control technology. Is that right?
I don't even know what, I don't know what they did. I don't know if they replaced it. They may have just fixed it. It's hard to get transformers.
You can fix a transformer that's caught on fire? Really? Okay.
No, they had to bring a new one in. They send them back and then rebuild them, and then you get it down the street in 2 years.
But the point is, the transformer has, like, every 2 years for the past 6 years, has had a major issue that's caused outages, explosions, and fires. And I think that this battery, were it to be on the system, would help to mitigate that, as well as some of the issues we're having, which is we're reaching the capacity of the line that comes into Cohasset.
I'd be concerned that the power from the battery would have to go through that transformer too. So I think the grid, the network in that part of the world just needs to be upgraded.
Yeah, so when we study any project, they'll be looking at the impacts of this generation, both locally on the distribution circuit and then going into the transmission system as well. So in theory, they should flag anything that would be triggered by the battery. The issue with the transformers, that's a pre-existing condition. So unless, the battery causes like a major shift from that pre-existing condition, then it wouldn't trigger the battery having to do the upgrade. But also in theory, by us fronting the cost for the substation, maybe that means that they would have more money later to put somewhere else. I've never had a utility actually listen to where you want your upgrades though.
Martha, would you like to say something?
Actually, there was another transformer down by Black Rock Beach on the intersection of Forest and Jerusalem that I don't know if it exploded or had a fire, but there was an outage in that area of town too. So yikes. It's everywhere. I wondered about the visibility from the parking lot and from the Cook Estate, and if you expect pushback from the neighbors up the Cook Estate.
Yeah, I think they're going to be the most impacted neighbors. And so what we would like to do is talk to them about using vegetation for screening. So we would obviously set it back outside of the fenced area so that we can maintain a cleared area around the batteries, but then create some sort of evergreen screen. A lot of, when we do a lot of projects, right? Some people see a wind turbine and they think it's beautiful, and some people see a wind turbine and they want to keel over. And so we understand that, some people may barely be able to see it, but it might bother them. And so I think working with them to try to create screening using vegetation is probably the best alternative or the best mitigation that we can provide, because I think people like looking at vegetation. So that's kind of what we're thinking right now. But I do agree, Martha, that that would be probably the biggest concern.
Also, I just wondered what the process and the timeline is.
So this is our first public meeting to present the project to anyone. As I said, we've reached out to the fire chief as well, just to put the project on his radar and see if he had any kind of initial feedback or thoughts or requirements. And then from here, we're hoping that we can get the support of the AEC, or at least not oppose it, because we do think it is something that's better for the entire area and the energy generation here. And then we would be reaching out probably to town council to figure out how to move this forward within the local zoning. So that's kind of the town side of it, which is the permitting. At the same time, we're also moving through the interconnection studies. As you guys probably know, we have been working on doing some solar that was going to be sold through net metering to the town. And that took a really long time to make it through the interconnection grid. So it's very difficult to know if the interconnection is going to be a 1-year study, a 6-month study. I mean, we've had projects that go way faster than you think they're going to go. And then you have projects that sit in the queue for a very long time, depending on what's in front of them. Our understanding right now is that there are not significant other projects because of this utility upgrade that's needed. So we're expecting that it should be able to move forward with a regular timeline. Once we have the interconnection agreements, that means like we've agreed with the utility what the upgrade costs are, any kind of operating requirements, and the timeline with them. That would allow us to move forward and actually like purchase the equipment. Purchasing the equipment we're expecting right now would take about 6 months to get the batteries to site. And then before they arrive, we would have to do some leveling. We would have either poured foundation or gravel foundation, but pretty minor site work to prepare the area for it. I will say, we all just lived through the pandemic. So 6 months is the timeline now for the storage. It could be 12 months. It could become 18 months. It really depends on the supply chain. But what we're proposing currently is a domestic solution. So it would come from within the United States.
Thank you.
Lindsay, could I ask, my internet's been going in and out, so you may have answered it. The Norwell substation, is this project actually going to pay for the upgrade? It's not been clear to me.
Yes, for this
To be
project to
able
move forward, it would have to pay for the upgrade. That's correct.
And that would benefit everybody who wants to now put rooftop solar on that is not allowed to. So there's a lot of benefits too. I mean, that is holding us back from moving forward in any way with solar. So it's a strong argument.
Yes, my jaw dropped when National Grid said it was going to be 2028 or 2029 and thinking about the Commonwealth's goals for 2030. And it's like, how can we possibly hit those 2030 goals if we're putting rooftop solar on the pole? So thank you. I appreciate that.
One other thing, will the town have any financial, any financial costs with this?
I mean, it would be the normal like processing of the application, but we don't see the town having to incur costs. It would get the benefits, obviously, of property taxes, and then the benefit, as you said, of having more solar in the grid, and those are kind of like ancillary benefits.
Sounds really good.
So Lindsay, what would you need from us? And we appreciate you coming to present on this.
I would appreciate first give it a week or so, noodle on it. If you guys think of anything else, I mean, what we want to do is come to the town with our best foot forward. And so things like the screening, that's something we've identified, it's something you identified. So obviously it's going to be important, right? And we probably need to start, once we speak with the town about the process, is to start socializing this with the people at the Cook Estates, because they are going to be the abutters to the project. And then it would be great, I think the things that I've heard tonight, you guys understand why a storage project could be helpful to this area. And many people aren't going to understand that. So anything you can do to help kind of like facilitate the conversations would be appreciated. And then Tanya, as you know, anything you can do to kind of help us like pave the path forward, whether that's helping us set up meetings with town council or whatever else, just to keep it moving, because projects obviously, you know, can get stuck. And so, you know, we're the local cheerleaders for people in town who want to do this and think that'll be a benefit for the town. But the more people we have who can be in on that is really great. So thank you.
Can I make one more suggestion? I for myself anyway would love to see a richer discussion about battery management, you know, sensors, a little bit a little bit more, a couple of slides or whatever devoted to, you know, like literally showing how the batteries are in racks or however they are and how they're protected. I do feel a lot of people might be concerned about, you know, fire, especially nearby. So I think a little richer discussion about that would be helpful.
Great, thank you. Yes, I will make sure that we add that to the next presentation.
Okay. Any final questions for Lindsay?
I got a comment maybe about the aesthetics of it. It seems to me like it's a pretty innocuous thing. We got some boxes that are kind of in the shadow of much larger buildings. It seems like, you know, such a minor addition to what the, you know, the commercial infrastructure already there. It kind of makes me think of the back in the day when they were first putting up cell phone towers and people thought they were so ugly and there was all this opposition to them and so forth. And so they tried disguising them as giant pine trees or something really ridiculous. And that was a game, like you go along the highway and look at these giant pine trees. And they eventually decided that was silly and stopped doing it. I kind of feel like that's the same aesthetic consideration here.
Okay. Great. All right. Well, Lindsay, thank you so much for presenting on this. We appreciate it. And I think it's an exciting opportunity for the town. And the more we can really identify the benefits to the system, you know, again, we've got an old system, we've got outages, and we have a primary line coming into Cohasset that's almost reaching capacity. So being able to place battery storage in the town directly, I think, is a benefit to the system. But to the extent there are ways you can identify those benefits, I think it would be compelling.
Well, thank you all for having me tonight and for the good discussion and questions. And I will make sure that Tanya gets a copy of the slides and we will go from there. So I will follow up and see if you guys have additional questions maybe next week and go from there.
Okay. Thank you, Lindsay. Thank you again.
Thank you guys for having me. Have a good night.
All right.
I just say one thing, Lindsay, if you revise your slides, are you going to come back to us, or is there a chance for us to see the revisions? Because I think this slide presentation was absolutely great, but I do think, like to Tanya's point, the benefits could be made a little more, you know, obvious and clearer. And also I do, as I said, I feel like with battery management would be helpful. And I'd love to see a revised slide deck, and if you intend to do that.
Yeah, I'm happy to come back again. You guys meet every month? Yeah, I could be back in March with new slides or additional slides.
Or either just send them along and we can see them, but you know.
Great. Yes, that would be easier for me. I will send slides, updated slides to see if you guys have any feedback. And yeah, that's great. What a great suggestion. Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you again for coming and presenting and for having Cohasset's interests at heart, since you were raised here and your family lives here and the company is here. We love having you in town.
Great. Thank you guys. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Okay, so before we go to Julia's report, I'd like to move Chris in his data report up because I think he has to leave at around 9.
Thank you. All right, so I'm gonna share a couple things. First of all, let's see, let's see. All right, is that the solar array data, do you see?
Yes.
Okay, so couple interesting things. The first thing I want to point out is take a look at this second column. The first column is the year. The second column is the production of the solar array. 2017 was a partial year, but full years before inverter problems were 18 through 22. And take a look at that production level. And then take a look at what we produced in 2024. That's
About half.
a significant delta. I had a little conversation with Scott Kaplan, who was at Palmer Capital, about this. And I asked him that, if the inverter problem were to be fixed, could we get back, would that produce at least another 200,000 kilowatts per year, kilowatt hours per year? And he said between the inverters, fixing the cabling so the rats don't gnaw on them, and there was one other issue. He thought we'd get close to 600,000 kilowatt hours per year, which is a dramatic increase from where we ended up last year. I found pretty interesting. Any questions about that?
I'm
So
just
we're
curious as
gonna
how
do
they
it?
finally solved the inverter problem.
Yeah, apparently, Steve, the ones they've been replaced, they've gone through a number of the same model, and they've been discontinued, and
Of course.
there's a new design that I believe is going to be better. So, but time will tell, that's for sure.
Has it been installed? So we have it now?
No, and I'm not sure what the timeline is, Martha, because it has to be studied by National Grid before any swap out can be affected.
So they identified the problems, but do they have a plan to fix them? For example, the lines that the rats are chewing
Yeah, so
on?
they're going to elevate the lines. They're sort of hang lines. I think they're called hang lines or something. That gets them out of the rat's grasp, I guess. And the inverters, I mean, there has been a debate as to is it the inverters or is it the quality of the power in the grid? And I guess only time will tell on that too when the inverters are replaced to see whether performance goes back up.
What about the panels? Have they degraded?
I imagine they've graded a little bit, but I'm sure they've degraded a little bit, but nowhere near as much as we see the degradation in the total production. Okay.
Let
Now
me just, Julia, could you get the contract? It should be in the archives or the files of the town, the power purchase agreement that the town entered into, because there are some minimum guarantees. And I think it may be tied to the panels. So it'd be outside of the inverter issue, but I think it'd be good for us to have a copy of that contract.
Yes, I can look into that and get that for next meeting.
Great, thank you.
All right, so here's our dashboard. We looked at it every month. And you can see January, we're sort of down on unique drivers, down on the number of sessions, and slightly down the financials. I'll come back to that in a second, and slightly down in energy. I spoke with the ChargePoint folks to get a little bit of insight about what this lower left is all about. And this is simply the energy. So over here, so 404.41 megawatt hours times 22 cents per kilowatt hour. And that equals total revenue. Sort of. Actually, there's a little there. I don't know if you all know there's a 10% upcharge that we pass to the consumers for sort of a billing administration fee.
Oh, wow.
So that's 22 cents plus 10%, which is what, 2.2 cents. I
Yeah.
thought that was interesting. The utility cost, this is oh boy, what has happened here? Here we go. This is the amount of savings, what it cost us to buy the energy we pass on to them, assuming a price. And I'm not sure what we pay. What do we know what we pay for our the town pays for the electricity, the power per kilowatt hour?
So this is a question we've been asking for 2 years or more. The answer is we still don't know. And I don't know, Julia, do you have access or have you tried to get access to the National Grid bills and data that's provided to the town?
No, that's not something I've looked into. But I can ask Michelle.
Yeah, we receive, I think, most of the information for our accounts digitally. We should get that and know how to get it because it's always a production when we want to get that information. And it should be readily available because the town receives it directly from National Grid. But we need it when we go out to market soliciting solar energy arrays. We need it when we're trying to understand things like what is our actual cost of electricity. So I think when we set 22 cents, we set that based on what the market price was, but we also knew at the time the town had a sweetheart deal with the competitive suppliers that it had entered into, and prices were projected to be much lower than they ended up being. I think that contract may have expired or is about to expire. And that's why the town is not part of the community aggregation program, because they had a much lower price. But these are questions that, as the Alternative Energy Committee, we should know and have access to at our fingertips. So Julie, if you could figure out how do we get access to the National Grid invoice data, and it should be as simple as going to our treasurer and saying, who provides you with this bill that gets paid by you, and in what form do you receive it?
Sure.
So Julia is extremely helpful, and she got both she and I upgraded to Network Manager. So we have new titles at Network Manager, and the one benefit that comes with it is that we have more privileges into getting at the data, and we can see interesting stuff. So, but ChargePoint has not put together their user interface in a way that really is conducive to doing interesting trend analysis, at least efficiently. For example, for me to understand these numbers that on the lower left going back a couple of years, I need to spend about 3 or 4 minutes per month. So for each data point, going in and asking for inquiry and letting it process. So and there's some other examples that it's tough to get real trended data. But I'm just beginning to explore some of the capabilities there. But thank you, Julia, for getting that set up. Appreciate that. All right, any questions on this? Okay, great. Thanks, Tanya, for pulling me forward.
No problem. Thank you for all of your data. And next agenda, I will have you up front. Any questions for Chris? Okay, let's move on to Julia's report.
Yeah. So, to start, we have good news regarding the EV parade. So, yesterday we heard back from Town Manager Chris Senior, indicating support for the EV Parade initiative, and urging the committee to continue with the permit application process, the event application process, which I think Debbie is taking on, and then also that requires approval from the police chief. So that's great.
Steve, you have a
Julia,
question?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm really worried now because we were thinking of having a parade of Teslas, not exclusively, but Debbie and I have Teslas. And since Elon Musk has gone insane and is trying to destroy our government, there's my best friend called me up today and suggested I take a sledgehammer and publicly bash my Tesla into. So I'm not sure we'll be sending the right message or we get the right reaction. I'm a little bit concerned about that.
Thank you, Steve. How does everybody else feel?
We can all get stickers that just say we bought it before he went mad.
They have those stickers.
I know.
Elon Musk owns, like 10% of Tesla. So
My husband just said that what did you just say?
$400 billion of Cybertrucks.
Yeah, the State Department's going to buy $400 million in Cybertrucks. It just
Yep,
came
they
out
are.
over the news.
it's
Yeah.
only fair. It's only fair. Right.
Here's the
Well,
thing,
well,
talking about an event that is,
armored trucks,
Talking about-
our armored Tesla, and now they've removed the word Tesla because that was obviously an oversight.
we're talking about an event that is 2 months away, and Lord knows what will happen between now and then.
I still like
what
the
I was
idea.
concerned about, Julia, the couple of things was the insurance. And actually, Tanya and I, we were going to talk about it, I think, because I was thinking probably the easiest thing is actually to start and finish right at town hall. And then if we could get the town hall open for bathrooms, because if we wanted people to stay and park and talk to owners and things like that, I mean, maybe we just skip, just don't worry about bathrooms. And then the other thing, as I said, is we're supposed to post insurance bond or something. And I don't know whether they would suspend that or so. Those were my questions that I've been concerned about.
Yeah, so I reached out to Tracy in the town manager's office just for a little bit of clarification because I don't typically deal with the event application process. But she mentioned that just to go forward with the application and submit it to the police department. And you don't need to specify the insurance initially. It's something you can discuss with town leadership or the police department once your application is completed other than that. And then also, I would assume that discussion would probably happen at the same time for the use of the public restrooms.
Can I ask some fundamental questions? What do we envision this parade to be? Is it like 5 people with EVs or is it 20 or 30? I mean, are there must be gating factors that if we only have 5 or 6 cars, then I can't imagine you would need permits and bathrooms, right? But if there's going to be 50, then it's a different story, right? Yeah, maybe.
I
I mean,
guess
I don't know what the vision is. I mean, we talked about the vision. It's a very cool thing. We do it on, is it Earth Day? That was the idea?
It was the Saturday after, I think.
Right, whenever this town celebrates it. So we try to have, is the vision and the goal to have as many as we can? And Deb is hanging out of her red Tesla and I will hang out of my.
And
red
listen,
Tesla.
you'll be in that parade too. And Tanya,
Fine.
you too. You've got an EV.
I do,
We've
but
got
I'm gonna be
4
in
right here.
Australia.
So does Martha. Martha has an EV,
Yeah,
right?
but I won't be here. I mean, I won't be there.
Oh,
Okay.
well, maybe someone could borrow it, and do you have some family
It's with me here in Atlanta.
or friend or?
So,
But
so I
anyway,
guess,
But it's
sorry,
not
go
until
ahead, Debbie.
April. It's not until April.
I'm not home then. I mean, I'm not back
Oh,
by
okay.
then. It's okay. Yeah.
All right, but
So,
no, but so the vision is to have this, to have it a big, robust show, right? Yeah.
yes.
Yeah, and I think we should think about, Steve raises a political patina that's now on EVs. I think we were originally thinking it would be great now that there are so many different types of EVs and people generally like or love their EVs, to give those who have the EVs an opportunity to showcase their electric vehicle and do it as part of Earth Day, right? So I think that was the original vision. I think we wanted more than the people on this call. We wanted the people in the community. We're a cluster, just given the socioeconomic status of the people in this town, it tends to be associated with clusters of electric vehicles and a lot of early adopters. And we don't even know how many we have, but we expect there's quite a few in town. And we've tried to get that information. It's just not readily available. But this would be a way to do that. So one thing we could do, because we don't know, given the political patina, if people would want to come out in their EVs, right? Especially if it's a Tesla or other. So one thing maybe we could think about trying to suss out the interest, or be prepared to just have 5 people, right? Normally what we do is we have Debbie's car at the site when people are picking up their bags to do the trash. And we use it as a way to showcase what the Alternative Energy Committee is doing and to showcase electric vehicles. So how are people feeling? Debbie, is that consistent with sort of how we visioned it, which really was only based on last month's meeting?
Yeah, I mean, I guess what I envisioned was, just sort of a parade through town. I think, I didn't even know if they were doing cleanup day because they usually do meet in the town hall parking lot. So that's not compatible with the parade unless we have people ring the common. We could actually have that. But we'd have to think about it. The beach obviously is closed for bathrooms, and anyway, that's something I think maybe someone will work with me on figuring out a route. But I also, and we talked about having a band and getting the school bus to lead it, and and really making it fun and a chance for people to meet and talk to the owners afterwards. So that's basically what I was thinking, what I think we were talking about. So
Yeah. And so
that's,
is the concern that people are going to be less enthusiastic given what's going on, or maybe like shutting down the Paris Climate Accord? And I mean, do you think people's enthusiasm is waning? I think my enthusiasm is anything but waning. But I
I
would
know.
look to
We
the
have to
group.
fight harder, don't you think?
I would hope so. Yes, we know we're not quitters, this group, right? What do you all think? Steve, you always have something to say.
I'm afraid I can't add anything. I don't know. I'm at a loss.
I think it's a good idea, not a good idea. I mean, this is a democracy,
Probably
right? Unlike
tomorrow,
the
there's going to
government.
be big demonstration on the Common in Boston. So I'm going to go there and rant and rave and work off a little steam. Stop the coup.
I just think
Well,
that if anything, we've got to show it's more business as usual. We've got to get back to, you know, yeah, still keeping the dialogue about renewables, out there. I feel like
Yeah.
it's really important.
Couldn't agree more. Undaunted. Just keep going.
Yeah, I mean, I think there's always concern when something starts to become politicized, and maybe our positions should be this shouldn't be politicized. This is another type of technology. It exists. There are people who have it, who love it, who want to show it. There are lots of different models that are out there now, more so than just Tesla. And it shouldn't be politicized. In fact, EVs are a way of having energy independence from parts of the world that we can't control and that create problems for us. So I think both sides of the table want energy independence, and they have different views on how to achieve it. But that said, I think if we take the position that this shouldn't be politicized, and if it is, it's not the fault of the people who own the cars. So let's give them on Earth Day an opportunity to take it out for a drive.
We're still promoting clean energy, right? So we're promoting the use of electric vehicles. We don't care what someone's political agenda is, right? We're promoting clean energy because we're the AEC, and ergo, we want people with electric vehicles to come out and inspire other people that still are driving ICE to flip.
And
Is that the
frankly,
goal?
apparently the Cybertruck is becoming very popular with the Republicans. So we might get people who would normally not want EVs. You know, I think the answer is we don't know. So for purposes of Earth Day, we want to go forward with the application and do the parade. We have the support of town staff. We would do it on the day where Cohasset hopefully is doing a cleanup day, and we would be able to showcase vehicles on that day. So I would say let's move forward with it. It is the end of April vacation week, which is my daughter's, and it turns out I will not be here, but I do want to continue to help move forward with making it happen. And I'd be happy to let somebody borrow my EV if they don't have one of their own. So is everybody okay with continuing forward and putting in the application?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Sure.
All right. Well, we have a vote to move forward, so I don't think we need to do a vote to affirm it. But Steve, thank you for raising it, because has been a big shift since we voted to proceed with this in January 9th, and we'll go forward with the process. And frankly, as a committee, we don't have money for insurance. So if somebody somewhere wants to shut it down, it's an easy way to shut it down. Hopefully we won't get to that point. All right. So we will proceed. Great. Back to you, Julia.
Thank you. Moving on, I'm just going to jump quickly to green communities because there's more of an immediate update with that. So our green communities final report submission for 2024 has been submitted and received by our green communities grant coordinator, Jane Pfister, on February 3rd. The final inspection was conducted and approved by Lisa Sullivan on February 12th. April 4th is the next upcoming deadline for submitting a green community application, following a meeting with National Grid and Facilities Director Nick Berardi. It was expressed that due to the timeliness of recent town hall initiatives, he would like to pivot to projects focusing on the town hall specifically. Because I mentioned previously, they had 2 projects ready to go. And and they're still ready to go if things don't follow through with the timeline for town hall. If there's any type of delays, they have those as a fallback option. So that's pending meetings with the project engineer. Does anyone have any questions regarding that? Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm a little unclear on what happened. So we have a deadline to apply for more money under Green Communities in April, and Nick Berardi, who's the town facilities manager,
Mhm.
doesn't want to apply because he would rather focus on the town hall issue right now.
I'm sorry, I must have, I just explained it wrong. So, they were originally planning to pursue other projects for this, upcoming round. But because there's been recent, updates with the town hall, they're gonna pivot to town hall upgrades.
So rather than that money going to the schools or to another project, it would go towards town hall if we were to get money.
Right, because the projects are gonna, in theory, they're going to be going forward sooner, so they would want to get any type of incentives for that
Okay, thanks.
as soon as possible, yeah. Regarding the electric school bus, I don't have any further updates for that. I did not gather an update for that from Michelle recently. Does anyone have any questions regarding that? I can look into prior to the next meeting. Regarding the National
Actually,
Grid.
Julia, could you just get an update and send it around to everybody? We don't
Yeah.
need to wait till last. I mean, we should get an update every meeting, right? Because this is an ongoing issue. But if you could, after this meeting, as soon as you can, get an update and just send it around to everybody with the note that this is not for discussion because we're not in a meeting, but it's an update following up from our last meeting.
Sure. Regarding the National Grid MOU, we've just been having our regular meetings with National Grid for the Community Solutions program. So Debbie's involved in that and Barbara as well. And Nick Berardi had it and or Jake Ellis are participants in that, so that's been monthly. And that is where it was brought to National Grid's attention that advancements will be happening with the town hall. And they suggested that we move forward with that for the Green Communities project as well.
Can I just, is it advancements at the existing town hall site? They're looking to do whatever's needed to get it out of
This repair.
whatever is going on now. The status
Yeah.
that prevents it from being used for any reason whatsoever.
So I think the most immediate project that Nick mentioned was the HVAC system. So it's just renovations to the existing building.
But nobody's in there right now, right? It's condemned, isn't it?
The historic part. I believe this is updates for the entire structure.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean, you all know that I think they've made the commitment that they're going to, this isn't just stopgap. This is going to be to make it, to make it work for years to come. This is, I think, the strategy now. So they have to, get everything, like the historic part, I guess, is going to be spun off to that group, but there's a lot that needs to be done there. And then, so That's my understanding, is there's not going to be any discussion at all about going somewhere else. It's going to be the town
Heat
hall.
pumps, net zero?
Huh?
Are we gonna make it real? Is it gonna be heat pumps for the town hall now and make them net zero, or are we just gonna buy some
I-
wimpy gas boiler thing again?
I don't know. Nick is looking at some, I think there's sort of dual systems or whatever. So and he wants to build redundancy in there too. So there will be at least fossil fuel backup. So, this is the stuff they're talking about right now. Yeah.
Okay, well, the good news is they're talking to National Grid under our MOU. So to the extent there's funding money incentives to use heat pumps, they should be aware of that, right? And able to make an informed decision.
Yes, they're in on the
Yes.
ground floor.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think they probably will schedule an audit. Is that correct, Debbie?
Yeah, I mean, I think they are getting together. They've definitely, they have been starting to have meetings to talk about it. But I think, that as we know with National Grid, they're able to do more so than a traditional audit. So I think, they're really looking at some whole system upgrades and things. So in conjunction with Green Communities, I think we're gonna save some money there.
That's great.
That's good. So let's just stay on that and make sure the communication continues. And to the extent there's funding opportunities that we can help identify it and use this as an opportunity to move into the 21st century with respect to the HVAC and building control systems, even if we don't move into the 21st century with respect to the building envelope.
Great. And then the final bullet, National Grid vehicle inventory requirements under different programs. Is this bullet item in respect to the Climate Leaders Program?
No, this is with respect to the meeting minutes from last month indicated an ongoing confusion about what the Green Communities Program and the Climate Leaders Program require with respect to electric vehicles and the commitment to move forward with electric vehicles. And we have the inventory. I did forward that to Corey Evans and asked him to share that with the Capital Budget Committee, which he was thrilled to see the inventory. He didn't necessarily know how they could use it, but at least they have it and they're reviewing it. But with respect to the Green Communities versus Climate Leaders Program, have we gotten down to, or do we understand and have our arms around what the vehicle requirements are?
I don't have that specifically on hand, so I still need to look into that.
Okay. So just everybody make sure you check your to-do items, because I think this is a question that continues to come up in this meeting. And there have been different theories about what's required under the Green Communities versus the Climate Leaders Program, but it would just be good if we had a side-by-side comparison. Okay, any questions for Julia? Thank you, Julia, for all your help and for interfacing with the town and keeping the ball moving. Okay, marketing, articles for Stroll. Barbara, Debbie, Martha, who would like to take the first cut at this?
I'm happy to start. So we did submit an article to Stroll. It was a little over 1,000 words. The impetus of the article being that we completed a survey and that that climate, that Cohasset spoke very loud and clear that its residents want a climate action plan. In that article, we had some graphs about, are you was concerned about climate change? One was more about how do you think it will impact you and your family? Again, very, very strong positive results. So it started out with kind of a discussion about what we could expect in our town in terms of generally accepted projections about what climate change could do, not only in Massachusetts, but to coastal towns. And then why so many of our neighbors have gone and created their own climate action plan, which is a great way to work on resilience and mitigation. And then the article went on to talk about our neighbors, Hingham, Situate, Marshfield, have gone ahead and are blazing down the path and talked about what we can benefit. We're not only should we get it because it's the right thing to do, and it will mitigate some what we expect to be some pretty serious consequences of climate change, but also the eligibility, right? We have to make sure that we have a climate action plan so that we're eligible for certain programs. We talked about climate leader program and financial benefits that will come our way if we have a cap. And then that was about it. It was 1,000 words, fairly short. And now the doors have opened. Melissa Shore, who's the editor, is awaiting our much longer form, maybe 5,000 word, 2,500 to 5,000 word piece for the Earth Day issue. So I think it's very positive, and we all have to collaborate on the big article that's coming in. That will be due at the middle of March, kind of this time of March for the April issue.
I have a question.
Oh.
Can we just submit this?
Was incredible at editing it.
Oh, no, I just have a question. I mean, it would be great if we could distribute this article wider than the Stroll readership. Can we submit the same thing to Cohasset 143, to the Anchor? Can we broadcast it broader? Does Melissa care if we give the same article to other publications?
Oh, no, she doesn't care. It's really this committee has to make a call. That was my intent, and I wanted to talk about that tonight. I think we should get wider distribution. What do you think?
I think so.
If I recall, I think that Melissa gave us links to those articles, so we could repost the links on 143. We could repost the links in social media.
Oh, so you want to link it to Stroll rather than just submit this to the Anchor or other publications?
I'm just saying what happened last time. We submitted like 5 articles to her for an April issue that I think we ended up being on the cover of. She gave us links that would go straight to the article and on the Stroll website. And by doing that, we then could distribute them through social media, including 143. And at that point, the other publications started to approach us about doing a story. They normally are not going to just reprint something that's in Stroll magazine, but they might get inspired to do a story on the survey, or they might get inspired to do a survey on, or an article on some other aspect of what was published.
Okay.
So once we get the link, we definitely can distribute and send it and post it.
Okay.
And are we looking to do an article every month? Are we looking to do a couple of articles for the April issue? What's the next steps on this?
Well, again, she allocated 2,500 to 5,000 words, and it might not just be words. We can have images, whatever we want, but there's a certain amount of space that they've reserved for us.
For the April issue.
Uh,
Okay, excellent.
My question was, what's the intent of these articles? Is it to raise awareness and educate people before the town meeting that we're hopefully going to put warrants in? Or is it just to raise awareness of what we're doing?
So the answer is yes.
Okay.
I don't
Yes, to what? Are we,
what is
maybe I'm
the-
jumping
what
ahead in
is-
the agenda, but,
I-
yeah.
At a minimum, it's marketing for the work we're doing and to let people know what we're doing, because not everybody obviously listens into our monthly meetings or even goes online. We probably get more viewership outside of Cohasset sometimes, I think, than within Cohasset, but that's just a numbers game and people find us. So I think the articles through Stroll are marketing, just to continue to toot our horn, but also toot what we're doing and why we're doing it. And then to the extent we're sponsoring warrant articles for the town meeting, that helps people understand it. And one thing that we did find is when we did do great marketing related to the community aggregation program, once that rolled out and there was pushback and somebody on 143 actually said, I don't understand. Where did this come from? Why am I part of this? Like 5 people jumped in and said, where have you been, under a rock? Like they've been talking about this for 2 years. They've been writing articles about this. They've been presenting to the select board. They've been talking about it in their meetings. They've been posting things on the webpage. They've been getting articles written about it. So what you've been receiving things in the mail. Where have you been? Like that is a benefit of marketing to
Oh,
people,
no, I'm
so
not
they know what we're
saying
doing.
the benefit of marketing the group. I just was asking, basically, do we want to really focus in on the 2 things that we need to get on the warrant?
Well, I think let's talk about that during the warrant discussion. But Debbie, you're on mute.
Debbie, you're on
Debbie, you
mute.
can't mute.
Can I ask if you've got an appointment yet with the select board?
Yeah, can we talk
For-
about that when we talk about the warrant articles?
Yep.
Because it's tied to that. Okay, so we will just, Debbie and Barbara and I will continue to coordinate, maybe Martha as well, continue to coordinate administratively on articles and topics for those articles.
Okay.
Okay?
Sure.
Okay, so planning for 2025, I think Earth Day activities, we've talked about the EV parade and trying to tag on to any type of Cohasset cleanup that's going on. Is there anything else about Earth Day activities we wanted to discuss?
Can I bring something up earlier? On March 23rd is the health fair, the recreation and health fair. And we had a table last year, and I know I got a form to fill out. Will anybody help? Would we like to showcase there? So I don't know. I mean,
Well, let's talk about that. I think last year we were very intent on showcasing there because it was a way to get survey responses. And I think you collected a huge amount of the survey responses, as well as raising general awareness of what the Alternative Energy Committee is doing. I think the year before that, or 2 years before that, the one of the objectives was marketing the community aggregation program. So I think for this year, at a minimum, it's useful to let people know what the Alternative Energy Committee is up to. But is there another purpose that we want to focus on as we have the last 2 years?
I I think if we're going to go for the climate leaders and we're going to do the warrant articles, it would be a great opportunity to educate people at Earth Day.
You're right. That way well, last year it was about the survey where Steve and Deb and I were racing around to get signatures on or get responses. But this year, I guess our MO would be just what Martha said. I know we're not an advocacy group, but we can educate for sure. We're up to.
And so the thought would be we talk about the Climate Leaders Program.
Well, I mean, the article that we just wrote about a climate action plan. And yeah, that syncs with the climate program for sure. By the way, are we running out of money? Not to go back, and I don't want to disturb. I have to get off the call. Fortunately, I sent you a note. But aren't we pretty much in communities at this point?
So I thought we had been told that we were done, that we had, and we are one of the largest, we're one of the highest grant recipients of everybody. It's published what each town gets. And there are some towns that are like below 400,000 and we're at, I think, around 1.1 million. So we are a recipient that has taken advantage of this program. And we were a little bit late to the game. Others are later, but we most certainly have made up for it. I do think, and that's thanks to the organization of people like Julia who get the reports out and put in the submissions and coordinates with the folks in town who have good projects to put forward. So we were told, or I remember being told at one point, it could be in an alternative universe, who knows, that we were done, like we were coming to the end of our grants under that program. I've since been told that's not the case, that there's still more money. So there may have been an infusion under the Inflation Reduction Act or the infrastructure bill that came into Massachusetts, and they may be pushing it through the Green Communities program. I don't know, but I do remember being told that we were at the end of our grants, and I've since been told that there's still money in the coffers as a green community that we can access. Julia, do you have any insights on that?
I don't have anything substantial to add, but I can confirm that I've also heard the same as you.
How does climate leader, you can climate leader and green community. So if you become a climate leader, it's still by doer, right? It's still by the DOER is the administrator. Is that correct?
Think of climate leaders status as being like a green community 2. You know, it's an upgrade.
No, I understand, but Tanya's point, if we can still extract money from green communities, can we do it simultaneously with being a climate?
I would think that applying for green climate leaders community status would not impact negatively your ability to get grants onto green communities. Although I think Tanya's probably right. Cohasset's probably maxed out there. I mean, that's one of the primary motivations for a town to go for climate leaders community, because they get to start afresh, you know. And we're already behind the ball there. There are plenty of other communities that have already got that status. So,
right, but in terms of our conversation about education, so we're not just saying that we're getting more and more money as a climate leader. We're saying that this is a prelude to an action plan.
oh yes.
So in terms of what our goal is, I don't know, Deb dropped off, but at the health fair, for instance, you asked what's our raison d'etre is to continue to have that conversation to climate leaders as a prelude to climate action plan, because we've now, I don't know how many people read.
No, it's the opposite. You have to have a climate action plan to be a climate leader.
It's only
Right.
it's only an action plan for the municipal, not for the town as a whole, the residents and the businesses, by the way. has to be a net zero, a plan to decarbonize the municipal operations.
So, I mean, that is something we can do, I think, as the Alternative Energy Committee, right? Coordinate with the building facilities managers, coordinate with the DPU, coordinate with town staff, and do the background research on what it would take to decarbonize. How hard would it be? What does the building inventory look like? What does the fleet look like? You know, frankly, it would be the basis for a capital plan, but it would be in the context of, all right, here's a starting point of our assets that consume energy and generate carbon emissions. What are the pathways that we could pursue to decarbonize by 2050 in accordance with what the state's doing? I think a lot of the discussion, what Hingham has done, what a lot of the other towns have done, it's not about decarbonization of just the municipal consumption, it's decarbonization of the town, the community.
That's told us, right? That was Brad's big reveal to us, which was that's a strategy to take if you're trying to get a cap done, right? To talk about what's going on in the municipal side.
Right. Because it takes a lot less. I mean, there is some public discussion, right? But it can be public discussion in the context of committee presentations. We could present to the select board. We could present to capital planning. We could present to the advisory committee, especially if we go through the process and come to a conclusion that, look, this is not a heavy lift. These are the things that can be done. Here's the money that's available for it. Here's where it's going to be harder.
I don't see why there's any reason we have to go to before town meeting for approval for the town, for the municipality to come develop a plan to decarbonize.
But why wouldn't we want to do an overall climate action plan?
Well, most of our carbon emissions in town is, you know, the residents and the commercial businesses,
Right?
not the municipality. That's a very small part of it.
Right.
So I mean, I think we should go for developing a climate action plan for the entire town, but that would be a separate plan. We'd have two plans, one for the municipality and one for the rest of the town. And we wouldn't be obligated to do the one for the town to get climate leaders community, but it would probably help. And I think there is some indication that it's not fresh enough in my mind to comment any further than that.
I don't want to get into this because I do have to go shortly. Why I thought that the concept, and again, I'm a rookie, but the climate leaders program depends on whether or not you're proceeding with a cap, right? Do you have to be in the midst of creating a cap?
No, I think you have to have it passed or approved by town hall to get a cap in order to apply for the climate leaders program.
It's not a cap for the town as a whole. It's only a carbon decarbonization plan for the municipality. That's a misunderstanding. I looked at that carefully, and so you do not need a cap for the entire town, at least to apply. I think maybe you have to promise that you will be developing one, but I don't think you have to have it in place. But for the, to get the status, you have to actually have it in hand for the municipality. I believe that's the case. I'm not positive.
I'm looking at it right now, and that appears to be true, which is that the municipality, this is what it says, quote, the municipality must provide a copy of its roadmap for eliminating the use of on-site fossil fuels for municipal operations by 2050. At a minimum, the roadmap must include the following information. A greenhouse gas emission inventory tool used. We've already done this inventory and we've already used a tool. The emissions generated by buildings, vehicles, and water sewer operations. I think we've already determined what that is. Specific emission reduction measures to be implemented as indicated by triggering events to reduce the use of on-site fossil fuels in buildings and vehicles by at least 25% by 2030. a timeline
that.
with milestones to implement additional measures to transition away from the use of on-site fossil fuels by 2050, and documentation that both the municipal government and local school district have adopted the roadmap.
So that has to be completed
Yes.
prior to becoming eligible for
Yeah,
climate
Yeah,
leader.
you have to provide a copy of the roadmap.
prior to submitting an application, that has to be part of the application.
What do you think so how much of it do we already have under what we need to complete in the future?
I think we have the inventory. And I think that's it.
So
I think we
it's-
did a calculation of, and I think we report on energy usage at different levels as part of green communities. So that's why we were able to do it, the inventory. I think we took the green communities report, which has to provide an update on what the energy usage is each year. And we then were able to calculate what the greenhouse gas emissions were associated with that energy use.
And
So
then
one
2050 forecast, right?
Not what we don't have is a roadmap for eliminating the use of on-site fossil fuels, and we don't have a commitment by the town overall or the municipality to achieve net zero. And I don't think the select board would feel comfortable on their own approving a net zero plan without going to town meeting.
Hmm.
And frankly, I don't know if the people who are on the select board are willing to do that.
One reason I ask about the town hall renovation is if we're not going to make that net zero to begin with, forget the climate leaders stats. We'll never get there. You'll never be able to do it if we don't do it now. I mean, if we renovate the town hall with gas boilers, then you know it's a lost cause.
Right. And we have to engage because they've stood on their heads to all of these savings now, right? I mean, it's a no-brainer, don't you think? To engage National Grid in this?
Well, we are through the MOU.
Right, but Paul, for instance. I mean, why would they proceed with fuels if we have this deal, this MOU with
Well, the MOU with National Grid doesn't provide us the money if it's an incremental cost to invest. They can tell us where to find grants. They can give us rewards after the fact. And I think those need to be taken into account in the economic valuations. So I think our role is to be involved with the ongoing deliberations related to the police and fire department, related to the town hall, related to the schools, and help them to do a proper evaluation of the decisions that they should make with respect to climate control and other major energy users.
Right, but do we also forecast the savings or the funds from climate leaders that we would what we would all of these green upgrades versus not?
Yeah, I think that's what they would need to have information from us to make an informed decision about what the net cost is upfront and on an ongoing basis.
How long would that take? How long? This to me sounds like it's going to be a long journey.
To
What would
achieve
it
net zero or for
No, no,
Remember,
create-
you just
to
need the
create
plan. So like
the
the town
plan.
hall, I don't think we can go in there thinking that we're going to be putting gas boilers in the town hall and think we're going to be able to have a carbon removal, a decarbonization plan for the municipality, if we're going to do that. But if we do agree to go, we just have to have a plan, how are we going to decarbonize the town hall, et cetera. And part of that can be, well, we're going to apply for grants to help us finance this thing and the other thing. And, that can be part of the plan, is that we'll be, partially relying on grants from the Climate Leaders Community Fund or whatever it's called. Maybe.
Right, so
I
that's
think it's reasonable to make that part of the plan. But we have to have the completed plan, you know, a real roadmap, a serious plan for decarbonizing. It can't
Not
be a
only-
wishy-washy thing, I think.
Exactly.
Yeah, not only that, but we need documentation that the municipal government has adopted the roadmap.
Absolutely. It can't
don't
be
know
just
how-
an abstract plan. It has to be one that's been adopted and by the town administration and the schools. You know, so there's no doubt about their buy-in of the plan.
So Tanya, does this sound like a heightened priority? Given timing, et cetera?
I mean, look, I think we all believe there's a heightened priority because of what's happening to the climate. But setting that aside, most certainly having all the pieces in place to become a climate leader, this is the reason why we recommended to the select board they pursue a climate leader status. What we have at both the select board level and the school committee level right now, however, is a split set of opinions about whether or not this is a priority. And I think that's, and most certainly I don't think any of them would go one way or the other without taking it to the town to see what the town wanted. A survey is fine, but if it comes down to, look, we want to pursue a plan to achieve this, or here is a plan that the Alternative Energy Committee produced, and based on their calculations, which have been reviewed by the advisory committee, the capital planning committee, the select board, and the schools, this is achievable. And so we recommend you vote for it, right? When we spoke in January, I think we all felt like, yes, it'd be nice to expedite this, but it's a lot of work and a heavy lift to do before May when we're having our next town meeting to get that social buy-in.
Sounds to me like we need to make a checklist of what needs to be done to get the municipal roadmap completed. Does that make sense? I mean, why would we?
I think it's pretty much spelled out. You know, we have to get with the town planner and people that are responsibility for facilities and say, you know, work with you know, let's see if we can't come up with a plan for doing this. Like you would your house, you know, if you want to decarbonize your house, what are you going to do? You're going to call in the consultants and contractors to get an estimate of what it costs to put solar panels on and heat pumps, et cetera, et cetera. You have to do the same thing for all the town facilities.
Right. And you know, and the cudgel that we give for those that aren't interested in it or saying there are other is the projection of what the climate program will yield in terms of dollar benefits.
Which we don't know.
Well, we can project, we can forecast, we can estimate. I mean, we know that yields something or we wouldn't be interested in doing it. Isn't that right?
It is, but they won't commit to anything. I don't think it's a funded program right now, which is why they've been delaying the definition of what's required for climate leaders. And I think we should find out if they've been giving out money. Most certainly the Green Communities has been giving out money. We thought we had reached our cap and that climate leaders was going to be a Green Communities 2.0. And I think that's how it was originally envisioned. But now we've been told Green Communities is going to continue to hand out money and we can continue to go after some of that money. I think we felt like the Climate Leaders program with the requirements that are involved was a way to get access to another pot of money. And I think that is still true, but I haven't heard any specificity or commitments or guarantees that there's any money in the Climate Leaders program. And I don't know if that MIU discussions with National Grid.
If we come up with a decarbonization plan or the municipality that assumes that we're going to get grants that will help pay for some of this stuff, then I would say that if we get approved and we don't get the grants, it's like, well, we were approved. Are you going to not approve us anymore? It's not like we have to put money up front for this stuff. We just have to come up with the plan for how we're going to get the money, how we're going to finance the stuff, and what we're going to do.
Exactly. I agree with you.
It's not like we're asking for any money in advance. We just have to come up with a plan.
No, and I think one way we could do the plan is to, given existing technology today, look at what the incremental cost would be upfront, offset by going forward on a net present value basis, whether or not there's an economically rational decision to be made with respect to going net zero today, or if there's a gap between what it costs to go net zero versus what it would cost if we continued with fossil fuels, that would give us a number to ask for in grants.
I'm wondering if there's some consultant that can help us do this. There must be some professional help we can get to help do exactly that sort of thing. Come up with a decarbonization plan for the next, up 2030, 2050, and compare that, the cost of it and the benefits, and compare that with the alternative to doing nothing, just staying with our fossil fuel infrastructure, and see what the difference is. This consultant would have to work with the town staff to do this, survey the facilities and see what might be a reasonable time schedule for swapping new technology in for the old technology and so forth, and make some kind of reasonable assumptions.
Can I interject something?
Mm-hmm.
So Steve, you were just talking about, maybe getting some help. So Amanda had forwarded a grant opportunity to me, which actually I had forwarded, I think, to you, Tanya. And I was hoping we could talk about it tonight. The grant application is due on actually February 17th, which is Monday. But it is, it's probably easiest if I read a little bit. It says this is, it's for UMass Lowell, with support from the Healy Driscoll administration, is launching a new Clean Energy Fellowship Program for municipalities to receive a graduate, undergraduate fellow this summer and fall to advance clean energy projects in your community. The fellow will be fully paid for by UMass Lowell. And it says it's a unique opportunity for Massachusetts municipalities to receive dedicated support on energy transition projects at no cost to the town. Fellows will be placed on community needs, from sustainability research to marketing to community outreach. This 6-month part-time placement would begin this summer. And so we could actually, if we could consolidate this into something, but we'd have to do it by Monday. And they said it's fairly easy to apply. I have not opened the application. I had just received this from Amanda, and I think, as I said, I sent it to you, Tanya. But this might be a chance to grab somebody who can help us, with some aspect of this. So if we could, sort of hone in on something that we could form around a grant application request, and maybe we could get it in by Monday.
Tremendous idea, Debbie.
Yeah. UMass Lowell, once again. They just got rid of their geothermal project. I don't know if you read about that. And they have all these interns that know what to do.
Wow. Well, Barbara, maybe you can, I mean, since you actually work there, you probably could help, like, I mean, I don't know, maybe we get a couple of people. Unfortunately, I'm going to be on the road. It's going to be really hard. But I will forward this email, I guess, to a few people at a time. I don't know. I guess can I forward it since I can forward it right now, right?
You can
To
forward
all
it
of
to
you, 'cause-
everybody, but I
As long as
think
the
the key thing is,
application. Sorry, Tanya.
I was, I think I have a work proposal due on Monday. I have absolutely zero time to
Getting out of
be able
5
to-
hours and I'm out of commission till Wednesday.
So Julia,
Um,
do we have Grant? I mean, is it just providing information?
So
I
let
guess
me open it
let's as
right
a
now.
next step have if we think it would be worthwhile to pursue and have the resources to understand whether it's feasible or not. I think the first step is trying to figure out, is this even feasible to do?
Yeah, I mean,
Is what feasible, Tanya?
Sure.
Applying for the grant or applying for the
Grant.
resources from Lowell.
I'm just looking at. I'm just
Debbie
looking
and
at this.
Julia, can you look at this tomorrow morning and make a call?
Yeah, I can look at it. I mean, I just want to put it out there that Monday
know
the
what?
offices for town hall
Holiday.
are closed because of the holiday.
Yeah, I don't know why the deadline would be on President's Day.
It is February 17th. Is that Monday?
Yep.
At 5. Yeah.
Okay, so
That's
if you
what it-
guys can take a look at it tomorrow morning and make a call, that's not something we can do as a committee, but just take a look. If all it requires is the town to put in its name, the signature of the town manager, and a 1-paragraph description of what we would have them do, I think it's doable. If it's a significant proposal, I just don't see anybody willing. I physically cannot because of work obligations. And there are other people on this group who just can't. But I think that's a call for Julia and Debbie to make based on how difficult of a lift it is. Because it'd have to be done by
Okay.
tomorrow or
Yeah.
over the weekend.
I can look at it tomorrow with you, Deb, because I'm just going to be on a plane all day, but I'm happy to look.
Okay, well, I sent it along. I just opened it up and it seemed to give me a forward button and everyone was the exact same page. So I don't know, I guess you have to fill it out before you can advance to the next page to even see what they're going to ask for. So anyway, yeah, so Barbara, maybe you and I could talk. I've got a 3-hour difference here. So that's something to take into consideration, and we'll see what we can do.
Okay, that's fine. I'm that's fine. You can text me. I'm on a plane, but you can text me and I'll see it and I can read it if you send it to if you email it to me.
Okay, so action
Yeah,
item is Debbie, Barbara,
would-
and Julia to review and make a call tomorrow on whether or not it's feasible for us to apply for this.
Okay.
Tanya, I had sent you a
All
note and
right.
I'm sorry, I do have to leave.
Mm-hmm. And I had responded, so thank you for participating as long as you have.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Okay, so warrant articles, just as an update on that, related to a Q1 presentation. The select board is very busy reviewing the warrant articles for town meeting. And they are so busy, they wanted to push off any presentation by us. And in addition to pushing off any presentation by us for Q1, Ellen was wondering why we're even doing quarterly reports And then when I pointed out that the mission statement requires us to report to the select board in conjunction with the town manager, i.e. Chris Senior, she said she thought, well, you could report with a memo or a presentation attachment. You don't have to do it in person. And that would meet that requirement. But she also felt maybe she would talk to the other select board members about whether or not we needed to do quarterly reports or whether it was something that we should do twice a year. I can't imagine they would want it less than twice a year, but I don't know. I think it's a question of what we're busy doing and how much they want to stay apprised of what we're doing. So you can interpret this in one of two ways. One is obviously they don't care. The other is they aren't concerned about what we're doing, that we have enough political capital. They're happy to let us continue to move forward as long as it's within our mission and can be pointed to as our mission to move forward and give them status reports at some set of timing. So I'd like to think it's the latter, because we do have that political capital in the bank. And I think when the mission and the quarterly reporting was done, the select board at that time felt like there was a lot of effort being expended that was not being communicated. And so they wanted to be formal about how much communication was needed. So that's where we stand with respect to our report. We're not on the agenda. I am trying to have a meeting with Ellen, the chair, about what we want to do for 2025 and the climate action plan. And I also indicated to her that one of our reasons for presenting to them was because we wanted to understand what their position was with respect to climate leaders and the components required for climate leaders, and that we were aware there might be a citizens petition tied to some of those components for this town meeting. And I think that's due by February 28th or something. So that's a status report on where we are with respect to presenting to the select board and getting their buy-in. I think there's also a recognition that this is not the select board that we had 5 years ago, where they would give us the blessing to go forward with all things green. So this is a different makeup. And so it just politically, with what's going on externally, as well as the components of the specific personalities on the board, I think there's not necessarily a confidence at the town staff level that we would be able to get this approval with a single presentation, that there would be more work involved. Julia, is that consistent with the messaging you felt we received?
I agree.
Tanya, what's the citizen petition you referred to?
Well, this was at our last meeting. There was discussion that there would be people who obviously have shown an interest in having a climate action plan, and that they would be interested in pulling together the 50 or however many signatures are needed to put something on the warrant.
It's 10 signatures.
Okay,
But they-
10 signatures. to
they
put
need
on the
Yeah.
warrant.
It's in, it happens in a week from now, and those people need to get together and decide whether they want to do it, how they're going to do it, so forth. So I don't know if we just, energize them, let them do it. It sounds like we're not going to get to even run it by the select board for, we don't even know how long. And if they're reviewing warrant articles now, how are we going to get a warrant article in there?
Well, as Steve Winter knows, sometimes the most expedient way to get something done is a citizen's petition.
Oh yeah, I did one
That
too.
is the expedient way, right? They can't ignore those.
It works.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think what we as a committee felt last meeting was there was just too much socialization that was going to be required to get the buy-in and the support for us to move forward. That was reiterated by communications from town council, not town council, from town staff, related to how they felt about our chances of success if we as a committee wanted to champion this and move it forward. And so at that, given those two pieces, and then in between last meeting and this meeting, there seemed to be energy around moving forward and getting something on the warrant. And again, I think the question is that energy through this committee or is it through a citizen's petition? And based on the survey results, it seems like there'd be plenty of people willing to sign that citizen's petition and sponsor it and pull together support, even if we just had a random sampling of the people in the town, the ones who would end up in that room. I can't imagine it'd be so controversial it would pull out people who are against it, especially if it's just for the municipal, to go forward with an analysis of what it would take for town municipal operations to go net zero, to reduce its carbon emissions by 25% by 2030, and to go net zero by 2050. That may not be a heavy lift for a town meeting approval.
The only issue is if we're doing this to try to get to apply for climate leader status, we also would need a warrant article for the specialized code. And I don't think there would be a citizens petition group that would be anxious and eager to take that on, because it's just not very exciting.
Yeah. And frankly, what we found last time with the stretch code is time is your friend, because at some point it becomes so minuscule, the difference between the two, that it's just a rubber stamp approval by the town at the town meeting. And that's what happened last time, which was the stretch code had become equivalent to what we are already required to do.
So that's not something that would have to wait until the following spring, a year from now.
Well, it could wait till the fall. It could wait till the spring. It's a question of how far are we apart from what we're required to do under green communities versus the stretch code.
Yeah.
And over time they converge.
No, I understand that. I was just thinking in terms of, then do we not apply for climate leaders for another year because we can't get it done until next spring?
We're not going to be able to get a climate action plan done for a year.
Yeah.
So it seems to me, I know we voted to recommend that this be approved, and we presented that to the select board last year with our rationale. So we're consistent with that. But at this point, if it's going to take us a year to do a climate action plan, maybe we received in the survey support that perhaps a citizen's petition would get behind, especially if it's narrowly defined as what's needed for climate leaders program. That could get put on, if a citizen's petition wanted to do that, that could get put on this spring town meeting. And then with respect to the stretch code, that gives us another year to take it up when the convergence is even closer. So it's not a heavy lift.
Sounds like a good strategy. So, Tanya, can you refresh my memory? I don't even remember this discussion. I must have blanked out or something. But do we have anybody spearheading a climate petition, a citizen climate petition, and drafting the language and stuff?
There was general reference to, if this committee doesn't feel like we can bring it forward, there are plenty of people in town who clearly have a passion for this, who could be interested in bringing forward a citizen's petition.
So you're talking about recruitment then?
I'm not talking about this committee doing anything, because we don't recruit people to do a citizen's petition under the guise of this committee. That would have to be an individual, people acting in their capacity as residents of this town.
Okay. All right. So at this point, there isn't any kind of an organized leader or group stepping forward. So you're hoping that somebody will.
I'm not advocating, hoping anything. All I'm saying is I think this committee is going to have a hard time pushing it over the finish line by the spring town meeting.
Yeah.
That's all I can comment on as the chair of this committee.
Gotcha.
So your thought is if a citizens group submits a citizens petition to do this, to develop for the municipality, develop a municipal decarbonization plan, that we could vote to support that at town meeting, but you're saying that we have a hard time getting the select board and the planning board, et cetera, to go along with us. Is that what you're saying?
I'm saying that if this committee tried to sponsor a warrant article.
No, I'm saying no, not this committee, just to endorse the citizens petition.
I think it'd be a split vote. I think it'd be a split vote. But I mean, that
Our committee, you mean?
no, on the select board.
Oh, okay, but I'm asking about our committee. We could nevertheless, I mean, we could.
Yeah, the citizens could come to us
the-
with their citizens petition and ask us how we feel about it. Normally, citizens petitions don't always have votes from the committees in town, right?
Yeah, right. So I would assume that they would approach us and say, hey, will you support this? And we would say, yes, we can do it, but we're doubtful that the select board is going to do it. It'd probably be a split vote on the select board.
We don't even have to say that. If they come to us and say, we want to do this, this is our citizens petition, we want to share it with you, do you support it? This committee could take a vote on how we feel, how we support it. I think this committee would support it unanimously.
I was thinking we'd also give them a little advice.
I don't think we need to. I think
we don't need to, but wouldn't it be nice to give them some advice? But okay.
We don't need to do it in public as a part of this committee.
I see what you're saying.
Like, why would we do that? We just don't need to.
Why? Because we like the idea. That's why.
Well,
that's our job. We're the Alternative Energy Committee, for God's sake.
I don't think our job is to tell them what other committees are going to do or not do. That's not our job.
You can tell them how to approach the other committees, say.
I think there are many well-trained members of this committee who have figured out how to get things done.
Okay.
But I think this committee could be approached and we could give our comments. We could give advice. We could say, here are concerns that we've considered and here are concerns that you might hear. But even with those concerns, what we've seen is this, and here's why we made our recommendation to pursue it. We've already voted to pursue the Climate Leaders Program. We've already voted to pursue all the components that are required for that. So we have already supported this concept. This committee membership hasn't changed. If a citizen's petition comes before us, I'm sure we would support it, but it would depend on how it's worded. And hopefully it would be worded consistently with the Climate Leaders Program, which has been our recommendation. So that's, if people on this committee wanted to give them advice during a public open meeting session on what roadblocks they were going to come across, then obviously the members could. I don't think it would be useful or helpful expenditure of our committee's time to do that in a public open meeting session. But they probably would get a feel for that. And they could decide if they want to go to the select board for support. And they could figure out if they want to go to the advisory committee for support. They could make that decision on how they wanted to proceed. But there are examples of citizens' petitions that have not come before us. And that's fine too. So I think it would be up to the citizens who are signing the petition and championing the petition on how they wanted to proceed.
Certainly. So who are these people? I want to talk to them.
Good.
I don't know who they are.
All right. So I think that's that. We still have our quorum, so we can continue on, but I think we're coming to the end. Yes, Tom.
And just quickly on the school business, the solar on the roof of Deer Hill.
Yes.
They've been authorized to go out for schematic diagrams, get,
Okay.
schematic engineering. There's been no movement at all. And I've signed up, the easiest way for me to keep track of it is I've just signed up for all the RFPs coming out of town hall. So I'll see it when it hits, when it goes out for bid. It was
Good.
just much easier that way than trying to get information another way.
Yep. Can you make sure that as part of that RFP, they include the requirement that the engineering has to be able to support solar panels?
Yes, I'll take a look at the RFP when it goes out and then I'll get back to them.
Why don't,
I've asked several times. They've done nothing so far.
Okay, but-
There's no movement.
once it's issued, it's too late. Can you be part of the drafting process or review a draft?
I
or
can
communicate
try to
with
work
them?
my way in there with the committee. I have had zero luck so far.
Okay.
I've had zero response back. I'll put it that way.
Okay. All right.
They're
Community
Just
So-
choice.
crickets.
Yeah.
Tom, so if
Yeah.
you are just glancing over the RFPs that are going out and you see something that, that might be of interest to the committee that either is informative or something that we might want to, participate in or something, that may be very useful.
I will certainly do that. Town hall comes to mind.
Right, town hall, the police department,
Fire station. Yep.
Yeah, that would, just kind of, if anything pops up that we could either be apprised of or something.
Well, we need to be in on the floor. We can't be just
We-
responding to RFPs.
It's really difficult to get feedback from them.
Right. Well, Julia was supposed to help us with that too, is understand who is spearheading these processes.
Well, like on the police department, I was talking to Michelle because National Grid my feeling had been that they'd been kind of pushed aside. I was hoping that they would really get in on the ground floor. And Michelle told me clearly that they couldn't get involved until after an RFP had been let. So now supposedly, I guess they are involved again, which seems kind of crazy. It seems like that seems a little late, but I guess they just needed to get the contractor, and then they could bring them in. So that's what she
Okay.
told me about town.
Procurement.
Police station.
Okay. Okay. So it sounds like there's stuff going on. Again, I think action item continues to be, let's figure out who's in charge of this and create a cozy relationship. Which is easier said than done. I understand. Okay. Community choice aggregation program. Anything, Steve, to catch up on?
Yeah, we had a meeting today with Good Energy. Gave us some information, and I'll talk about that a little bit. So we got about 2,700 accounts that are in the program right now. A couple hundred, most of them are on a standard Cohasset standard plan. Around 200 are at the basic utility plan, and only about 50 are at the 100% renewable premium plan. Now, but in addition, so last year they had like 2,800 counts on it, and now so it seems like we're down a bit, but it's going to bounce back up because Good Energy is going to send out their sweep mailing, which will be somewhat over 300 people, and that's people that are now on National Grid's plan because either they went off a third-party contract or they're moved or they're new residents or whatever. So that will bring in probably a couple hundred more. So we'll probably end up with more in the plan this year than last year. Also, there are like 400 people. There are about 400 people that are in third-party plans now, and Good Energy has managed to get the names and addresses of those people from National Grid. That's because of a change in the Department of Public Utilities guidelines for running aggregation programs, that they're now able to get those names. And there's also a similar number of people that sent in the opt-out card originally the last time. And it is possible, legal now, to notify them about the revised rates this year, in case that they might be interested in joining in at this point. So there's a potential pool of about 1,200 accounts in Cohasset that could potentially come into the program in various levels. Now, Good Energy is only going to do their sweep of that 400 plus people that have National Grid accounts. But and one reason they hesitate, there's a couple reasons they hesitate to contact the other two groups, the opt-outers and the third-party contract people. And one reason is the expense. They're not budgeted to pay for extra mailing. So Debbie and I broached the idea of some way the town could contact some of those people. And the information we gave to these two groups of people, the opt-outers and the third-party contract people, would have to be quite different. And we have to be very careful how we market these two groups. So anyways, that's kind of a synopsis of where we are in the program and what the potential is for further growth. And and Debbie and I are still talking about how to start the Penny for the Planet upgrade marketing campaign.
Well, I'll bring that back in for the health fair. I really lost connection during that time. Are we going to get a table there? Did you guys decide?
I think we felt that there was enough to justify getting a table, even if it was just to what we've been doing. But I think our reason, that having a reason for that table, we have plenty of reasons to have that table. And so we could decide what those are. But I think, yes, the consensus was we should move forward with having a table. And we can decide at the next meeting what we focus on.
We can kind of bring out some of the things we were going to do 2 years ago, because we now have good evidence that the program saved money, and it's even lower this year. So I think aggregation could be a part of it anyway. So if anybody wants to give ideas about that table, I'm happy to organize it and man it. And I still got those little blue, pinwheels to give out to kids and stuff. So, we could, but I did think one of the showcases could be that Penny for the Planet and get people to upgrade.
Okay.
And
well, did you say that was March 23rd?
March 23rd, yeah.
March 23rd. Okay. I can be there with you if you want.
Mm-hmm. I can also be there.
What? Excuse me. What is on March 23rd?
The health fair. Health fair.
Yeah, that really got a lot of people. So so that'll be good. And then, so any suggestions of what we should have for our display would be appreciated. But definitely Penny for the Planet would be one of them, if that's okay.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Well, let's, Debbie, if you could take the lead in thinking through what we should focus on and come back to this committee in March, and then we can prepare the materials.
Yeah. Oh, and one of the reasons what I wanted to bring up too is that I guess what I was thinking is that we learned today at the meeting that, that Good Energy's committed, the contract is committed to one mailing a year. And so it's not a calendar year though, I guess it's actually the contract year. But they also will help with materials. And then they did say something, but we didn't get to pursue it, that they'd actually maybe even help with tabling or something. So, we can see what we can get actually from them for materials.
Okay, very good. All right, very good. Anything else? And I just want to warn you, I'm running out of battery. So if I suddenly die, somebody else can do the adjournment. But we're at 10:05. So unless there's something pressing, I would recommend we move over matters not reasonably known in advance, or put it on the agenda for next meeting. All right, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
So move.
Thank you,
Second.
Steve. Seconded by Tom Daly. Excellent. We don't need to do a roll call vote for this. Everybody in favor of adjourning, raise your hand and say aye. Aye. All right. Thank you for another great meeting. Appreciate it. Great work.
Okay, thank you, everybody.
Have a good
Bye.
night.